Do you ever feel like your biggest problems, the stress, the anxiety, aren't really caused by what's happening around you, but by something inside your own mind? Well, today we're diving into an ancient diagnosis for that exact modern feeling. It suggests that the strongest prisons are the ones we can't even see. Let's get into it.
So these ancient Pali texts we're looking at have this really powerful phrase for this invisible prison, Avijja bandhana. It literally means the bondage of ignorance. Now, the core idea here is that we're all, to some degree, trapped, not by a lack of education or IQ points, but by a fundamental delusion about how our own minds work. It's a kind of blindness that keeps us stuck, running in circles of dissatisfaction.
Okay, so let's be super clear about what this ignorance, this avijja, actually is. It's not about not knowing things. It's a deep misperception of what's happening in your own experience, moment to moment. It's the reason a tiny inconvenience can ruin your whole day, or why a single worry can spiral into a full-blown panic. We react based on a distorted view of things, and these texts say this misperception is the root, the very soil from which all our other psychological troubles grow.
So, if ignorance is the disease, what are the symptoms? How does it actually manifest in our lives? The texts diagnose three main mental taints, which they call the asava. Think of these as the ways this core ignorance kinda leaks out and contaminates our mind, creating very real, everyday problems.
First up is kamasava, the taint of sensual desire. This is basically our addiction to pleasure. And it's not just about enjoying a nice dinner. It's that relentless, nagging craving for the next thing, the next dopamine hit from a social media notification, the next add-to-cart click, the next binge-worthy show. It's all driven by this flawed logic that if we just get one more pleasant thing, we'll finally be happy. But we all know that finish line just keeps moving, doesn't it?
But it goes even deeper than that. The second taint is bhavasava, the taint of existence. This is our primal clinging to our identity. It's that constant, deep-down drive to become something, more successful, more important, more permanent. It's that fear of being a nobody, the desperate need to make our mark so our self feels solid and lasting. It's the engine that fuels so much of our ambition, and frankly, a lot of our anxiety too.
And the third taint? Well, it brings us right back to the beginning. Avijja sava, the taint of ignorance itself. Now, this is the really genius part of the diagnosis. Ignorance isn't just the cause, it's also a symptom. This creates a perfect, vicious feedback loop. Our flawed view of reality fuels our cravings and our clinging, and all that craving and clinging just clouds our mind even more, which reinforces the ignorance that started the whole mess. It's a perfectly designed, self-perpetuating trap.
So the big question is, how does this one root cause, this avijja, create such widespread problems? Well, it's not just some vague, fuzzy influence. The texts describe it as the very first link in a precise cause and effect chain reaction, a cascade that, they argue, always ends in suffering.
This whole process is called dependent origination, and you can really think of it like a set of dominoes. The first domino to get knocked over is ignorance, avijja. Because we don't see clearly, we just act out our old habits and biases. Those are the sankhara. And because of those habits, when something happens, we have an instant automatic reaction. You see an ad, you feel a little spark of desire, and suddenly you're craving that thing. It's an automatic chain. And the last domino to fall? The texts call it the whole mass of suffering, stress, grief, pain, the works.
But here's where it gets really empowering. A diagnosis isn't much good without a prescription, right? And these ancient texts don't just point out the prison walls, they hand you a detailed blueprint for escape. It's not a magic pill, but a systematic way to train your mind and dismantle the prison from the inside.
The path has these three totally interconnected stages. You start with sila, or virtue. Basically, it means living ethically, not lying, not causing harm. And think about it, when you're not constantly creating drama or feeling guilty, your mind has a chance to settle down. That inner calm is the perfect launch pad for step 2, samadhi, or concentration, which is training your wild, scattered attention to be stable and focused. And only then, with a calm, focused mind, can you really develop panya, or wisdom. That's the direct insight that just cuts through the delusion and destroys ignorance for good. And the texts really hammer this home. They repeat this refrain over and over again. A mind built on virtue and concentration, when it's fortified by wisdom, is completely, utterly freed from those taints we talked about. The cure is tailor-made for the disease. It's a whole, integrated system for finding real mental freedom.
Okay, so what does this freedom actually feel like? What happens to a mind when the bondage of ignorance is finally broken?
The texts describe it as this incredibly profound and radical transformation of your entire experience. The result is stated with this beautiful simplicity. Avijja vihata, vijja uppanna. Ignorance is destroyed, and its opposite vijja, true knowledge, arises. We're not talking about accumulating more facts here. This is a fundamental shift in perception. It's like someone finally flipping on the lights in a room you didn't even realize was dark.
Let's just look at this contrast for a second. A mind trapped in avijja is like murky, turbulent water. You can't see anything clearly, so you're constantly just reacting to shadows, driven by confusion and craving. But a mind liberated by vijja, that mind is clear, it's stable, it's calm. It no longer reacts blindly. It responds to whatever life throws at it with wisdom, balance, and a real sense of freedom.
To really capture this feeling, the texts use this absolutely stunning image. They say the liberated mind is like a lake in a mountain cleft, clear, tranquil, and undisturbed. So clear that if you were standing on the bank, you could see right to the bottom. You'd see the shells, the gravel, and even the schools of fish swimming by. That clarity, that profound peace, that's the goal. A mind that can finally see things exactly as they are. So, the ultimate takeaway from this ancient psychological map is, well, it's both challenging and incredibly hopeful. It suggests that the keys to the very prison that keeps us feeling stuck, they're in our own hands. In fact, they always have been.
And this leaves us with a really important question for our own lives. If this diagnosis is timeless, what are our modern bondages of ignorance? Is it our addiction to our phones? Our obsession with productivity, our polarized us versus them thinking? And if so, what would a modern path of virtue, concentration, and wisdom, a path to real clarity, actually look like for us right now? That's a powerful thing to reflect on. Thanks for joining me.